Welcome to the Pool Nation podcast, where it's all pool talk. And we ain't talking about netting and jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. We talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. Now let's welcome your host, with over a decade of industry insider experience and still the reigning champion of Marco Polo, Edgar De Jesus, and his co-host, John JJ Flawless, the fastest netter in the West, and Zach the Pool Boy Nicholas.
Pool Nation Live Podcast. I'm your host, Edgar De Jesus. And yes, just kidding. I'm actually Emily Lamenzo Washkovic, and I am the reigning champion of Marco Polo. John JJ Flawless is not with us today, but we are in the studio with the Cannonball King himself, Spider.
Appreciate y'all having me. This is always my favorite show of the year.
Today's episode is our annual Women's Summit recap. I am so honored to be with these three amazing women who helped make this week so incredible. But before we do that, I do want to welcome everyone to the live podcast. This show is where they talk all about pool talk, and we ain't talking about netting or jetting or splashing and dashing. We're talking about becoming a nation of pool pros. And yes, we will talk about the latest products, trends, and training in the pool industry. But before we do that, we need to thank our sponsors, the SPPA, Blu-ray XL, Aquastar Pool Products, Natural Chemistry, Raypack, Heritage Pool Supply, Hayward Pool Products, Encore Brands, Poolside Tech, Pool Brain, Nidec, and Encore Filtration. And I actually know these brands because we got to learn all about them a little bit this week and meet people at them as well, which was so amazing. Ladies, Doreen, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. I'm happy to be here, Emily, after a busy couple days. And I have to say, you look like you've done this before.
Well, I did have my own show, but I'm no near as good as Edgar
That's
with
right.
the intros. So, just trying to do my best, Edgar. Leanne, how are you today?
Good morning. I'm doing great. This is my one time a year I get to come on the podcast and talk about what a great week. And it's been more than just the Women's Summit. We also opened the Pool Nation headquarters this past Friday. It's been insane. So it's been a lot. So I love wrapping a bow around it with today's podcast. So
It has been a ton, but
It has.
all the energy and just meeting people, it's keeping me going. I know
Yeah.
I'm going to be
Yep.
dead
Oh, you'll
tired
crash.
later,
Tomorrow,
but
we're going to crash.
we're good. Sarah, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm very thankful to be here today. After everything, I just feel so fulfilled.
Totally. And something about the Women's Summit that I kind of knew would happen, but couldn't believe it was going to be as incredible as it was just the energy when you're in a room full of women,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's so different.
Yeah.
And I think in the pool industry in general, it's so needed because it's such an industry of not only men, but just this long, I don't know, it's a community that needs to be fostered, and you need to know each other, and to know each other in a group of just women and then to be able to go back to the industry with everyone else. I think it really brings people together in a different way.
It
Very
did,
true.
for sure.
I want to talk a lot about all the amazing things we covered at the Women's Summit. And I think for me, if I could sum it up, like, why was it so incredible? It was a room full of people who have all different roles in the industry, all different companies. And so the content wasn't about water chemistry or wiring a heater. It was about developing yourself as an individual. And as the keynote, Doreen invited me to attend the whole conference if I had interest. And I was like, yeah, I love talking to people. It'll be great. And then I found myself
Yeah.
scribbling notes. I have all my notebooks in my bag. I learned so much. Sarah, you were kind of with me on more like the attendee side of things. We were helping and involved, but what was your favorite part, or what was the most impactful moment for you?
I like to see when a woman for the first time is coming and they ask everybody to raise their hands. And every year it really is split half and half.
is.
And it surprises me every
Me
year
too.
how many people are there for the first time. And it just is like this little nugget that's like, yes, more women are being contacted and more women are showing up. And it really does give me goosebumps to think about how many new women there are every year that are going out there and putting themselves out there. It's not easy. And we did breakout sessions with a mentor mentee, and we ended up in one of our sessions talking about women having the imposter syndrome in our environment that we're in, and in life in general and motherhood. And it took it so far beyond water chemistry and pools and really into that conversation that women supporting women is such a beautiful thing. And that imposter syndrome does not have a place at the table.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Doreen, you were so instrumental in crafting the content, making everything connect and have a through line. Can you just share with us a little bit about what that through line was that you created and how you kind of pulled it through the whole program?
Sure, I'd be happy to. It was very intentional. I know this is the 5th annual Women's Summit. And the first one we had, I think it was 18 women, and then it grew to 100, and then it grew to, 100, whatever. And it just keeps growing every year. Every year it's been inspirational, it's been motivational, which has been awe-inspiring in itself. What I will say is, what's going on? This needs to be closer.
It's closer.
Oh,
And
okay.
When you
your
turn, we're
head-
missing you.
So what's happening? See, this is not my comfort zone. So,
You're doing
so what's
Finally, we
great
found
about,
her a place where she's not comfortable. Finally.
Now I know.
one little
Write that
sliver
down.
of the world.
So what's interesting is the inspirational and motivational has been wonderful up until this point. But this year particularly, we really wanted to make it aspirational. And what I mean by that is, how can we make it to a point where it's developmental, where we're not just hearing presenters, we're facilitating work. And so what we did was really intentionally plan the entire 2 days to work and weave within itself. And that's challenging because you've got a blank slate to work with. We're trying to think through what are some of the biggest problems we can try to solve for in 2 days. And how does that look from a foundational perspective? And then how can we build on it with each session? So starting with the keynote. That is huge, Emily. So the role that you play really helps us to kick off that first day in a way that is very intentional, but we can build on for the next 2 days. And, I'll say, Edgar and I have talked about, what does that look like? How do we pick the right person? And it really is somebody who can motivate us, but also is connecting to our purpose. And you did that perfectly.
Thank you.
I had some phenomenal feedback about this was a God moment in some cases. This was just what I needed. It was full of content, and we can build on that moving forward. So then we had a session on communicating with impact, and people think, oh, gosh, I already know how to communicate. I communicate all the time. But this was about a framework and a way to plan conversations that activate intention and action. And so we were able to talk about that. But I think whenever you think about communication, we miss the foundational part of that, which is trust.
Oh, yeah.
Building trust. And then we were able to build on that through the mentor sessions and not do the heavy lifting. We allowed executives to just relinquish control and let them have 8 distinguished, conversations that were different. But they all seemed to come back to culture in every group, which was
Absolutely.
really amazing. And then we had Alicia Stevens stepped out of a comfort zone and worked on science or persuasion. She took content that we wrote and developed, and she facilitated it just phenomenally. We'll talk about that in a few minutes. And then on the second day, we brought a brand new content with Leanne's help
Yes.
around multipliers.
I love that.
How do you multiply the capabilities and the intention that you have, that credibility you have to build that we talked about on day 1, and really how we do it? So really Leanne's session, I think, was the highlight of the 2 days that we had.
Well, and Leanne, I felt,
Crazy.
you don't
No,
think
you're
that?
good.
No, but thank
The
you for that.
content was amazing. I think that would help the conversation to get.
Yeah, the content, it was interesting because Doreen came to me and she said, take an extra 15 minutes because everybody was so engaged in it. And when that happens, you can see this is something that they really, really wanted.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and I wanted to be intentional about not having them go down a rabbit hole talking about bad leaders they've had in the past.
Right.
This was really about how you as a leader, whether it's you as a leader, you as a peer in the workplace, whatever it is, how you can become that multiplier and identify those characteristics where sometimes those are great multiplier characteristics, but done incorrectly or at the wrong time, they become diminishers. And again, I think that's when everybody really grabbed onto that and saying, "Oh my gosh," they found it interesting. Some of the feedback we got was, when you guys admitted that you do things.
That's exactly what I was going to
Yeah,
say.
when you guys do things and make mistakes and become diminishers, we're like, holy cow, that was powerful. And
So
because we don't
powerful.
think you guys, we're like, are you kidding? We're all human. We all do it. The goal here is to identify it so you can do it less often, create those multiplier moments, and really become, that leader that creates more multiplier moments instead of those diminishers. And we saw how they were just grabbing a hold of that in the conversation. And what I really liked is that we saw people that were so quiet
Yes.
and
Yes.
kind of blending into the background, raising their hand and reading and commenting. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And that's when Doreen's like, yeah, take an extra 15 minutes. We got to keep this going.
Well,
Yeah.
And I feel like I know you two are experts in the difference between facilitating and speaking,
Yeah.
but that was something about this program and in the multipliers presentation especially that stood out to me, because it's like, you can listen to speakers and hear what they have to say, but when they're engaging the audience and you're getting different examples from different people who are at different levels, it really does kind of humanize what you're talking about. And when Doreen was prepping me for my keynote and we were looking through all my slides, she notated, like, I think this would be a great moment to pose to the audience or like ask a question. And I normally present and am open to if people have a question or want to jump in, but the intentionality behind that, especially in the multipliers, was so obvious to me that it was having an impact. And I also thought it was really cool when people in the audience would give an example or answer. It was always fueling the rest of the conversation. We never were like getting on some random tangent. And to your point about people who were quiet suddenly like lighting up, I think that again speaks to the Women's Summit and the comfort in the room.
Such a safe place.
You
Creating
know?
a safe environment for them. I
Yes.
had many people walk up to me. I'm a very quiet person. I don't feel like I want to ever have a voice, but this place gives me that voice.
Totally.
And one person comes to mind. Christina was literally the one who said, "I don't ever talk in front
My
of
new
people."
bestie.
And she was raising her hand loud and proud and always volunteering, because she said to me, "You guys create such a safe space here." And it's hard to do that with 130 women in a room.
Totally. Sarah, I want to come back to you because we were both in the drive together on Wednesday. So for anyone who doesn't know, Doreen hosted this VIP experience a day before the actual summit started. And it's this thing called Drive. And we all took this evaluation before we came. And then we had these like big printouts telling us all about our personality. And what did you think, Sarah? I mean, you knew this group already. You're a part of the industry and very much like a recognizable face for people. But how did you feel on that first day? I felt like that was a foundation of roots
And that was
before we
intentional.
started anything.
That was intentional, right?
Yeah, so I did the pilot program last year. So I've had my results for a full year. So it was really, really cool to be able to have that for a year and build upon it and then come back, I think literally 365 days later and to say, I see now in this time frame, because we all go back to our lives and then our lives just become our lives, right? And so when you take that step back to be like, okay, I've learned this and now I see where I have actually applied it, is really empowering. And to say, this makes total sense why I feel the way I feel at the end of some days, or why this conversation really empowered me and different things. And to sit next to other women in the room and to be like, oh, well, you love enjoyment, but enjoyment's my lowest thing, right? And to see that we still are compatible and we're friends, and to be able to do all that stuff personally for me, it really did drive some decisions that I made with moving in my career and having a separate job and different things, to know I don't need to go to this path. This path will be more for me, because that's what drives me instead of drains me.
Right.
Well, and for me, the drive also kind of laid this groundwork for the rest of the week, which was like, you're going to learn about yourself and your personality, but none of this information is supposed to be good or bad.
Yeah.
It's just more information that you can use to act on.
Yep.
And that really was powerful for me. And I know that from doing personality tests,
Right.
but with drive, it's so much more,
Deeper.
It is, yeah. It's like intense isn't necessarily the right word, but like when you can see all those different items and the ranges, and then to your point, Sarah, you meet with someone else who has the opposite, and you see in them like, oh, they have all these amazing qualities.
Mm-hmm.
But it is our tendency, like, I'm glad you mentioned Christina because she's my new bestie. And when we met at Drive, she was focused on like what her low ones were. And I was like, well, let's look at it this way. And I think when you help someone else look at their results or the information or the challenge they're going through, it's sometimes so much easier to be like, no, look at it this way.
Right.
And that fostered really great connection.
Yeah.
I just want to say, I know they normally don't tape on Saturdays, but we do have a lot of people in here
Yay.
with
nice.
us. So Anne was actually at the summit.
I know Anne.
Yeah. And then Integrity Pool Service is here with us right now. We also have Encore Filtration with us.
Hi,
So
everybody at Encore. Oh,
I
they were
know.
phenomenal partners, even in the planning stages.
okay, let's talk about the box, you guys.
Oh.
First of all, the whole conference had so many great details
Yes.
and so much intentional planning for how we were going to all connect. But I feel like something Pool Nation does really well is it's bringing together partners, brands, knowledge. And this year, the surprise and delight moments were really about all of those partners.
Yes.
Yeah.
Someone described the box who isn't me.
I will.
Okay,
Because
perfect.
this was one of our, I think, we wanted to surprise and delight our women. They've come to the summit. They may not have ever been to the summit. And what can we do to just take it to the next level? And so we reached out to our partners and said, we'd love to have a box full of your merchandise, your branding, to first showcase your support of the Women's Summit. And then what can we do to just open that box and get them really excited? So we partner with all of our partners, but there's a couple shout outs I want to give.
You have to.
First of all, Naomi Broderick from Encore Filtration was key and instrumental in stepping up every time and adding things to the box, designing the Women's Summit personal card that each of us could sign and give a personal message to. She had given a box similar to that to John and to Edgar, and they were so thrilled with that box that they wanted to do something like that for 130 women. I want you to imagine what that takes to have all of our partners sending in products, us, opening a headquarters and then putting these boxes together.
Which that was
So
hysterical.
complete chaos at the last minute because, we're opening the headquarters and now we're putting boxes together. So Emily,
It was so fun.
we invite her to be a keynote speaker and she's filling boxes like 2 days before the
But
summit.
it took me back to my
help us.
conference days. And I
Yeah.
knew the people would open them
Yeah.
and just love them. So you're like getting that joy while you're packing it,
Very much so. And we had Pool Brain. Pool Brain played a big role because on day 2 we had a pouch.
Yes.
And the pouch was designed by Michaela Rogers from Pool Brain. And she
Cool.
put her little spin on it. It was this beautiful pink. That's her favorite color. But inside there were also branded items that were smaller. So we didn't just surprise the first day.
Right.
Then in the afternoon, with Heritage coming in
That
and
was awesome.
unveiling these amazing
Brewmates.
what
The
are they
brewmates,
called?
yeah.
Koozie?
A brewmate
Koozie?
cozy.
Oh, my
cozy
God.
They
water.
were so cool.
And I had to videotape that moment because the
know.
shock and the surprise of everybody. So we just had a couple days full of different surprises. And some of our partners, everybody participated. Some of them just went above and beyond. So
You'll
big
have to
thank
remind
you.
me what partner did the little screwdriver kit.
I was gonna,
I can't
I was
shut
gonna
up
say,
about it.
Yeah,
I was gonna
need
say, and your favorite piece of the
Need
box was the little toolkit, which is so funny that we're all like, "Ooh, screwdrivers!"
Lisa from NIDEC, yeah.
But let me tell you, I know exactly where that's going when I get home because I might need one of those little screwdrivers. And let me just say, for anyone who's listening who maybe works at brands or does swag,
Yeah.
try to think of useful items because
Yeah.
we had
Yeah.
really good useful items in
We
that
did.
box.
Yeah.
We did, yes.
Okay, I'm trying to think about where I want to go next. Maybe, Leanne.
Can, I have to call out Sarah just for a second because it's going to drive me crazy. So, I'm sitting here and I'm like, yeah, I'm tired. We did the opening and then, I had to fly out for work. I flew back in, showed up for the nominations and then did the summit for the 2 days, right? And I'm, got my pity party of one because I'm so tired. Then I'm thinking, well, I know what Doreen's done, but that's Doreen. She's like a wind up, toy where she just can just like go and flop, 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 flop. But then I'm thinking about Sarah and I'm like, man, I have not seen this much of Sarah
I love it.
like ever. So first, and I'm going to try to get this right because I think there's like 6 opportunities here.
Right.
So Sarah comes in And the first thing that she does is a 3-day facilitation skills class with Doreen. And that is grueling because there's homework every single night and presentations that you have to do every single day. And you're honing those skills and getting better and better. And it's stress because you're videotaped and you're being critiqued and blah, blah, blah. Like it's just a lot, right? So she does that. That's the 3 days. Then she comes back for the headquarter opening. And of course, like usual, she runs around and helps and does whatever has to get done because she just jumps in and helps stuff. So we did the headquarter opening. Then the following day, we did the very first podcast from the headquarters featuring Sarah. So she's like, she's like the guinea pig podcast that we had to do and try it out and see if it works. And by the way, there was a whole audience. It wasn't like this where there's no one in here.
Yeah.
There was a whole sofa and chair audience in front of the
glass.
in front of the fishbowl, like they were zoo animals, right? Like they were zoo animals. And so she did the podcast on that Saturday. Then you come back and you do the nomination night on Wednesday.
And drive.
And drive that same day.
Yep.
So drive in the morning and the afternoon, and then the opening that night. And then she comes and does the 2 days of the Women's Summit.
And now we made her stay till
And
Saturday.
we stayed, and now she is here doing a podcast. It's like, dang, you know what? I think you need to talk to Edgar and say, is there a payroll I need to get on?
What's happening
Or
here?
what's happening here?
Yeah.
You have to be wiped. But I get, like, you get fulfilled. It's a lot of fun. It's one thing after another, and you're not at home. You're away from home.
I am ready for my bed.
Yeah,
I'm very much ready for and my pillow. More specifically, my pillow.
There you go.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm ready for my pillow.
So hats off to you, Sarah, because like, man, that was just a lot. And those things aren't easy things by themselves. And then you lump them all together. And I'm just like, I just admire what she's been able to accomplish over the last couple of weeks because it's been insane.
But she also like had to be there, in my opinion, because the way that people just like respond to her.
They do, gravitate for sure.
I don't think I even knew until the second day that you weren't like a part of Pool Nation. I'm serious.
It's true.
Okay, but since you brought up the facilitator training, we need to talk about that. It wasn't a part of the Women's Summit.
Nope.
But it's this new thing that, I mean, it's an amazing opportunity that's going to be available for even more people.
Yeah.
Doreen, I'll let you talk about it, but I want to start with Sarah.
I love that.
Sarah, tell me what this was from your point of view.
Professionally life-changing would be like a very easy title to give it. It changed the way that I look at taking a class, as well as helping other people learn in classes and input that I can provide, right? And it's so simple, as difficult as the 3 days were. There's some simple tasks that come in. It's even instead of, I'm going to teach you how to do something, I'm going to educate you how to do something. And that simple twist of that word from teach to educate like pulls me in, and I'm like, yes, I'm going to be educated, right? And instead of like, oh, she's going to teach me something, she's going to stand up there and tell me instead of helping me learn. And that's like the huge twist of it. And the class participation was a big difference for me. And I've stood in front of people and talked about what I do. And there's a big difference between talking about it and having people participate in that and what they get out of it. And so going to a conference after I took the training, even from a learning perspective, was a completely different environment for me and what I could listen to and get out of it. And there is something to be said for going to a class from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. and then going home and doing homework from 6 p.m. till 10 p.m. And the second day we had to do, well, technically the third day. So the second day's homework to the third day, we had to do a 15-minute skills presentation. And I stepped way out of my comfort zone. And for those of you who know me, know I say I don't math, that's not my thing. And I taught math to a group of people. And so it really was a big step out of that zone. And I got my presentation done and I went back to my hotel room and I was going to go through it and it didn't save. And it didn't save. And so I redid it, and it was just my handout part. So we'll say like 75% of it saved, 25% did it. And I did it, and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do it before we went 8. I was tired. So I put it down. It's probably like 2 o'clock in the morning when I finished. And I go in the next morning to pull it up to print it, and it didn't save again because I had gotten the template sent to me from Alicia Stevens, and I had filled it out, and she had a chart. And it was sent to me in a program, PDF, something computery that didn't allow me to save it. So that morning, I'm freaking out, and I finally just handed my computer to Alicia, and I said, can you just make my water not perfect? Because I needed my water to be super imbalanced for my lesson, and I was melting down, and it was a thing. So it was very intense, but one of the most rewarding things personally and professionally that I've had to go to. My cup was filled, and there were tears, and there were happy tears. There were tears, and they were happy tears, and there was tears of, there's something to be said for standing in front of a room in a very vulnerable moment. Totally. And the first question that is asked of you once you sit down is, what did you do well? And there are very, very little places in this life that you go to, and the first words out of somebody's mouth is, what do you think you did well?
Right.
And the second it goes to a negative, nope, we're on the positive. We're on the positive. And that changed a lot for me personally.
Well, and I think something that's so interesting when we talk about like the tears or being in these, forced pressure cooker learning situations is it really does kind of build that resilience of, you're not only learning, you're mastering the skills, but presenting, facilitating, that is somewhat of a stressful experience, even when you're good at it. Right. So I feel like the way you set up the training, it's not like you were trying to make people cry, but like it is about like you're learning and growing, and growth is uncomfortable. Yeah. And it's this really compressed pressure cooker experience.
Purposeful.
Tell them a little bit more from your end about what the training looks like, because I want other people to get excited. You already have a wait list for your next session, but I need people to like really know what this is, because to me, this is quintessential Pool Nation. Like offering this is so that the whole industry gets better, right? But also so that these gems of the industry are able to develop.
Right. So I want to start with, I'm going to give credit where credit is due. And that comes from Leanne. Leanne brought this program to us when I was working with her in another job. For like 30 years, you've been facilitating this, right?
Yeah.
And I have been facilitating.
God, I hate doing that math.
Yeah.
I really hate.
Well, you don't
talk about
like
not math, and I don't like that. I don't like that math.
So I was an operations manager, leader coming in to HR, and she's like, you're going to be facilitating training, and so let's make sure you know how to do that right. So she took me through the first year, a 3-day facilitation skills train the trainer. Now I had some skill sets I brought myself.
Sure.
Which is why I grabbed her.
Right.
And it grew me to my next level. So I started as a student, and then I took that baton from her, and I'll never give it back, and she knows it. So she'll have to take it wherever she wants. But it is purposeful in making sure that we bring people into a very safe environment. So kudos to Sarah. I told her in advance, it's going to require, some vulnerability. It's going to enable you to present and practice in a very safe environment, but you have homework. We use a video camera. You watch yourself back on video. And that tool, that video camera, I think is really honestly the magic, because you're able to see not only what you want to improve in yourself, but you do see in your head, you think it's so much worse than it is. When you watch it back, you can actually, we're forcing you to look at the things that you do well. And so to tell her all that on a phone call, and she's like, I'm still coming, and I'm doing this to dedicate 3 days is really tremendous.
Yeah.
So the facilitation skills, it's a 3-day environment where we bring 6 people and no more than that. So we can really dedicate time in each one of these workshops to give you time to practice. And so day 1 is all about learning all facilitation techniques. This is not a train the trainer. I like to make sure that's clear in the sense that we're training people how to train.
Right.
We're training people and leaders how to facilitate conversations, whether it be a meeting, whether you are presenting at a conference, or if you're coaching just one-on-one, or if you're a mentor. How does that look effectively to facilitate that? And so, we put you out of your comfort zone, and you bring in your own knowledge. And so day 1, we're teaching you. Day 1, we do a quick little introduction. Let's go ahead and look at the benchmark of where you are in presentation skills just now in day 1. Day 2, after the homework, you are facilitating either a knowledge or a skills topic for 10 minutes or 15 minutes. And then the next day, it's going to be either a flip-flop of that, skills versus knowledge. So you leave with 3 practice sessions. And the growth, I think that's the key, is although you're vulnerable, the growth from day 1 to day 3 is just...
It's unlike anything else
you'll ever experience.
Yeah. Well, and it's changes in implementation that stick with you. It's not like you're learning something and, we'll see when we use it.
It's applicable immediately.
Yes.
It's one of those things where, and I think one of the reasons why this class really resonated with Doreen is because she has always said, I don't like to train just to check a box. I don't want to train just to check a box. And when you do this class, there's no box checking done because you see the change in behavior, you see the improvement in skill set, and they go out and they implement it right away because now they have this framework. And what's also fun but yet interesting is that you then judge every presentation that you ever watch from that point on. So we are constantly, and I always confess to people, I'm like, I'm going to apologize in advance, but you'll never watch another meeting or presentation the same again. You will judge the hell out of it. And you just can't help it. It's just like coming from the hotel industry. We judge the crap out of hotels, right? Like
That's right.
we don't, this is wrong and they shouldn't do that. And this is wrong, they shouldn't do that. The same thing happens when you do that because you now understand that skill set that's required to really engage your participants, whether it's your audience or the people in the meeting or whatever. And it really is a life-changing, experience. And that's why I was so blown away because I watched when they went through the class, I saw Alicia Stevens' last presentation in the class.
Right.
And unfortunately, I didn't get to see it at the summit because I took quick run over to the headquarters, but I came back and asked everybody, well, how'd she do? But, and of course, Doreen said she crushed it. And it was interesting because you take a person who's been training for 20 plus years.
Yep.
Yes.
And I asked her, how did it go? What did you think? And she said, I was very uncomfortable. I think it went great, but I was very uncomfortable. It's because now this is a different style for her because she is Miss Personality.
Oh yeah.
That woman can get up in front of
Present comfortably.
She's like a snake charmer, right? Like she
Totally.
can get in front of a room and just charm the heck out of you. And she's so funny and she's so engaging from that standpoint. But to really understand that this is about the people that you are facilitating to. It's not about you.
Nope.
It's not about getting the laughs. It's not about getting that. It's about engaging them and making sure that what you're teaching lands, what you're educating them on actually educates them, and that they're in it, and you've changed how they do or see things. And for her to be able to walk away and be able to implement that at the Women's Summit and just blow people away at how controlled and just amazing she facilitated, I think is just proof positive that this class is honestly for everybody.
Yes.
And every time I teach it, so I still teach it, not with Doreen anymore because she doesn't like to share. But I'll also give her credit where credit is due. Again, the class is super old; it's like 30 years old, and she always modernizes the material and always gives it like the right modern look now versus the old look that it used to have. And so she always makes it better and shares that with me, which I love. But when I put my teams through it, the most feedback I get is, "Oh my God, everybody should take this.
Everybody should take this.
It's just like I can't." And they say it. They say it to us. They're like, "There's no one I can think of that should not go through this."
Well, and what I love, not only about Alicia's experience, but in general, is like you can be fully transformed in how you present, and you're, maybe more critical of these other presentations, but you also become someone that can help other people.
Absolutely.
That's the whole point.
Right.
And I mean, Sarah, you've seen Alicia at how many women's summits present comfortably. And
Hundreds of times,
I'll never want to step in her shoes when it comes
Right.
to MC. She's just got this special quality about her
On the
that
spot humor.
authenticity, and she just listens so well and translates that back in a moment's notice.
Yeah.
So Sarah, what did you think about being in with the trainer with her and then seeing her? She didn't look nervous, but I was blown away because I think one of the biggest challenges for her was not to do all the talking.
Right.
To allow for silence.
And that's hard for me too.
And she
I
had to
get that.
relinquish control
Yep.
and have engagement. So what were your thoughts just initially?
Yeah, so I think I told her, so I did the feedback with her, what she did well.
So
things
can we
that
say
she could
she
do
asked
differently.
for you to do the
She did.
feedback?
She did ask
Hey,
me to give
that's-
her feedback.
Can I just say,
Huge.
that feels like something that either the women at the summit already did, or everyone walked away saying, that's going to improve me.
Yes.
Right.
Because then you're not making your own assumptions about what other people think, how
Exactly.
you performed.
Yep.
Okay, sorry, Sarah.
Yeah,
keep
no,
going.
no, yeah. She asked me if I would give her feedback, so something that things she did well and what she could do differently. And her and I had a chance to talk about it yesterday, just real quick before we went over it. And I told her, I said, you did a phenomenal job of living in your awkward, because it was a very uncomfortable situation for her. And I think that she was like, I was so nervous. And I said, look, I knew because I know, right? But if you would never have said anything and you would have stood up at some other show and never have been super transparent in front of a room full of women, not a single person in that room would have had any idea that, one, you didn't create it, right? You were gifted that and you trained on it and did it, right? But nobody would have any idea. And they would walk away very, very fulfilled from your class. And she asked a lot of those leading questions. And another thing that the facilitator teaches, what I think Alicia did a really good job on, is it not only teaches you how to talk, it also teaches you how to listen appropriately instead of like, I'm listening to respond.
Yes.
You're listening to take it in, you're listening to do all this, and then to be able to help grow that situation. And I think that really changed for me. I've sat through a ton of Alicia's classes, whether it be about algae. I learned more about algae from Alicia than I've ever wanted to talk about algae. But like, to
Darn,
take
I'm
it,
sorry I missed that class.
Oh man, that algae, right? But I think it took it, and to see her change in how she was responding to questions,
Yes.
and how she was listening differently, even, was a huge change for her. And I think her awkward. She lived in that awkward, and she embraced it, and she did a phenomenal job.
Yeah,
That's
it was
awesome.
amazing.
And because they were talking more, they learned and took away more.
Right.
And I think that's the one thing we did this year different too. We actually copied all the material with workbooks. So you can document, you can practice, you can have conversation. So you can actually implement on Monday multiple skills.
I told Leanne yesterday, I was like, these workbooks
Yeah.
were brilliant
Yeah.
because not only were people still like, you always are taking pictures of the slides and whatever, but this was totally intentional when it
Yes.
came to writing down your own stuff in between the presentation
Yeah.
topics, right? Turning to the person next to you, seeing what they wrote down. And I have all my papers in my backpack. I know exactly where they are, and I know exactly how I'm going to distill them and where I want them to go. But it was so engaging because of that. And I know I already said this, but like when we looked at my keynote slides and you said, engage the audience here,
Right.
I was thinking like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. But then when I did it, and also when I went through all the other sessions of the 2 days, I was like, I'll never present the other way again.
I
because
love that.
people
Yep.
are listening, they're taking it in, they're soaking it up.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. I just have to say, everyone loves Sarah. So let me just tell you who loves
surprised.
Sarah. Let me see here. So Endesa Pool 4743, Sarah. And then Integrity Pool said, Sarah's running AE Pool Services, needs like a boss. And then I will say some of these other good shout outs are amazing. So Encore said, the Encore ladies enjoyed their first year experience.
Awesome.
Great.
And then this is amazing. Integrity Pools, shout out to all the admin people who kept the pool company's fire going, which is so
Yes,
true.
That's such a good point.
It is. And let me just say before we take a brief break that the reason I like that point so much is because it takes a lot to step away from the business and
does.
come to something like this.
Yeah.
And I had people come up to me because my talk was a lot about like boundaries, balance, taking care of yourself. I had a lot of people come up to me and say like, I want to try to do that or whatever. And I would always say, you know what? You already took the first step of stepping away for 2 days to come to this conference, because that does take a lot. And sometimes we think like everything's going to fall apart without us. But if you don't take these moments to fill your cup, to learn, to connect, that's where the burnout comes, right?
That's very true.
Yeah, it really does. And it's interesting because the same thing happens with that 3-day train the trainer. It's like you feel bad for having people have to sit there for 3 days and then they ask for more. And the same
Right.
thing was happening with the summit. We fill that room with 130 women. We know it sold out in 3 hours.
That's
3 hours and
insane.
36
yeah,
minutes.
3 hours and
That's
36 minutes. It sold
crazy.
out, and they're like, we need more, we need more, we need more. And it's like, if you go bigger, you lose the intimacy that's in that room.
Yes.
Something
You lose
special.
so much of that special human connection. And so then they're saying, well, just do them twice a year. And I'm thinking, yeah, Doreen, do that twice a year. Like,
That's not
that looks
good.
like an awful lot of work. But going back to the materials that you mentioned, Emily, when we're cleaning up the room at the end of the day, what I found interesting is that nobody left their
Gone.
materials
Nobody-
behind.
No.
And
Gone.
that's how you know.
Why
You're
would
like,
you? It's
okay,
gold.
they were so valuable, nobody left them behind.
It's gold.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
one last comment I want to read quick because we got to follow up on
Yes.
this one.
Okay.
Misty Lewis Dunn says, we would love to partner. We're an all women's pool route brokerage.
Ooh,
Amazing.
Yes.
And
fun.
I was saying at the conference, I was like, who's going to start the women-only pool company? I want these women skimming pools.
I love
for the stay-at-home men. Let's flip the narrative, right? Cute pool boy. We got to get some girls out there skimming. Okay, we got to take a quick break, but I am so excited to come back because we haven't even scratched the surface.
We haven't.
I feel
There's
like.
so much more.
A word from our sponsors.
Here we go.
Pool pros have specific needs when it comes to general liability insurance. The SPPA program has you covered. With 3 tailored and customizable general liability options, SPPA makes it easy for pool pros to feel secure. Find out more and get covered at thesppa.com. Now available, Pool Invoice. Pool Invoice is a pool billing software created specifically for the pool service and repair industry. It's developed for our industry and only our industry. Pool Invoice is built with recurring billing in mind. You can print, email, text invoices, or even send via WhatsApp. You can add reoccurring or yearly charges, accept credits, and set up autopay. You can even see when customers have seen the invoice. It even has a customer portal where they can log in and see, print, and pay invoices. It has all your customers' information on one page, so you don't need to search through hundreds of invoices looking for the one you need. Just go to the customer profile and it's all at your fingertips. Created specifically for the pool industry, Pool Invoice. Now available at poolinvoice.com. Blu-ray XL is the power of minerals working for you. Reduce your overall chemical costs and labor up to 50% guaranteed. Whether you have 20 accounts or 20,000, Blu-ray XL's direct pricing and free shipping to the pool trade have you covered. Improving pool professionals' profit and work-life balance is what they do. Blu-ray XL, the real mineral purifier. Visit them at BluRayXL.com.
Blu-ray all day.
Aquastar's new pipeline cartridge filters, available in 2 sizes, deliver top-notch hydraulic efficiency along with best-in-class filtration performance, approaching that of DE filters. Uniquely designed, open pleat spacing means 100% of the media square footage is usable. And these claims are backed by NSF test results. Designed with the pro's time and comfort in mind, the patented double-locking system improves safety and ease of access, making filter cleaners faster than ever before. Available now. Ask your supplier for pipeline filters today.
Natural Chemistry, a leader in specialty water care solutions for over 30 years, is proud to provide products that make pool service easier than ever before. Its unique enzyme formulations in Pro Series Pro Blend improve efficiency of your pool program while reducing frequency of filter cleaning and scum lines. Natural Chemistry is also well known for its wide variety of phosphate removal solutions that include a non-clouding formula in Phos-Free and extremely high-range removal with Pro Series Phos Remove or Phos-Free Max. Save time, save money, save work with Pro Series products. Stop sacrificing durability or efficiency with the help of Raypak's new Avia HD models that utilize NITEC, their exclusive industry-first technology. NITEC heat exchanger technology is Raypak's latest solution to superior strength and maximum efficiency when it comes to residential pool heating. With 900% more nickel compared to copper nickel in critical surfaces, NITEC creates an ideal surface to protect against scale formation and erosion without compromising on Avia's 84% thermal efficiency. Learn more at raypak.com/NITEC. The next evolution in lighting is here. Universal Color Logic 2.0 from Hayward. The latest in pool and spa lighting was designed with you in mind, making installation a breeze. Upgrades include a detachable cord and first-of-a-kind adjustable lower catch to overcome variations in plaster thickness. As always, Universal Color Logic lights retrofit into virtually any in-ground pool or spa while delivering industry-leading, vibrant color. Visit Hayward.com to discover more.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm just kidding.
Well done. Well done.
I'm going to do that on my show now. I'm going to emulate Edgar. Welcome back. Okay. I feel like we need to talk a little bit about how this summit has evolved because this was my first year attending. But 5 years ago, it was an amazing experience, but it was completely different. Leanne, you were the only one who was there 5 years ago.
Yeah, and so I wasn't at the first one that had like 18, but my poor little son was and was running around helping Edgar cater to these women, and they were taking, they were taking photos, and I think at that time, if I remember correctly, they were trying to make sure that they had a better social media presence or a better LinkedIn or, that kind of stuff. So it was some of that little basic things, right? And then they kept saying, promise us that we'll do this again. Promise us we can do this. This isn't the last one. It isn't the last one. So that really forced him to sit down and say, okay, what should this, look like? And he started bringing in some of his visionary partners and some of the women that work for those visionary partners.
Yes.
And those women started, they would present some things, and some of it was on marketing or some of it was on, different things. And I think it just, to your earlier point, it's not about a certain role that people play in the pool industry. It's just about making women better and elevating women in the pool industry, regardless of what their job is. So it really started to morph into better development. And I've done, a few years back, I did, culture of accountability, and we started getting into that, which obviously this year accountability was a huge thing. So I think it's going to hit the map next year, for sure. But we started being able to find out more and more what they wanted versus, who can we get from our sponsors to go out there and facilitate. And so it's not about, making sure that the sponsors, because the sponsors are recognized, we know who they are, we love everything that they do, but the women at the sponsors also want to sit there and want to be educated, and they want to be grown, and they want, so they don't need to be up there doing it if that's not what they want to do. So when we brought Doreen on to Pool Nation, obviously, hit the jackpot, right? Let's just put it out there, hit the freaking jackpot. Because she's said this before, but I've, for years, 20 years, been messing with Doreen going,
That's right.
you know what, Doreen, I've got this leader that needs this. Reach into your Mary Poppins bag of tricks and pull me out something that I can use to help, grow this leader, develop this leader. And I always thought I've seen most of her stuff, and I haven't. She's always got new stuff, and she's always got relevant, fresh, development. And so she reaches in her bag of tricks and she comes up with stuff. And then we were at a pool show, and people were presenting, and I said, we really need to up our presentation skills at the summit. And now we've started this certification training class, right, for people that want to be certified trainers that can actually get in there and facilitate at the level that we think these women deserve.
Yes.
They deserve that. And we got crazy feedback this year. Like this, every year the question is, oh my God, this was the best year ever. How are you going to top it?
Yeah.
Don't ask me what she's going to do next year, but
Don't ask me either.
But every year, and we wonder, we're like, gosh, that really went off well.
Right.
But every year has been better than the year before.
Yeah.
And it's because we learn and we ask for feedback, right? We had everybody's scan the QR code, give us feedback.
Right.
We were at dinner last night, and that's all we talked about was all the feedback that we got because we want to do better.
Right.
And they're so great about saying, oh, this was great, and that was great, and this was great. And we intentionally say, but tell us what else we can do differently. Yes. What would you like to see? What would be better for you? What, that kind of thing. And I think so elevating our own expectations of what we want to see has helped really elevate, what Doreen has brought to that summit. And it's showing. I mean, we have officers of companies in that room going, oh my God, you blew me away again. Stacey Gearhart posted something on LinkedIn yesterday. And it was when you can impress a strong female leader like Stacey Gearhart, hats off. I mean, that's amazing. That's such a huge compliment because she is a badass in herself, right? And I am constantly impressed by her. And so if we can do something that impresses her and she sat there for all 2 days, I'm like, we did it.
Well, that's what I was going to say is like having people like Stacey in the room.
Yeah.
That's how you not only know this is a priority for the women of the industry and the companies, right? They're
and her
supporting.
team,
yes,
always.
they're sending
her team
them.
Was there. Yeah.
But I think it also proves the content that Doreen has curated. Like she stayed for 2 days because she was getting value too. Right. It wasn't just about showing face, she was adding and gaining value. Right. And something that I really loved was I didn't know necessarily who was who in the beginning or what role or what level of, importance or whatever you want to say, right?
Sure.
Within the industry.
Sure.
And not only do I feel like I learned that throughout, but it also didn't
matter.
at
No.
all.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't
It didn't
matter.
matter.
It does not.
Nobody cares what your title is in that room.
No.
Well, and Sarah, I feel like for you, you've been in the industry and, been at different companies, like you're a part of the industry, but you're not like in affinity where you've only been with one company or one brand the whole
Right.
time. How can you maybe explain to people who haven't been to the summit yet what it really looks like from that lens? Because I feel like now people come to you and they want to talk to you, but there's just this thing about it doesn't matter what brand there's no competition in that room.
No.
Right. No.
No, there's not at all. And I think that that's such a beautiful, beautiful thing to have because, once again, like I said, we talked on mentor group. I think women comparing themselves to other women is so prevalent. And it's something that, frankly, I do it too. I think every woman does it, but it's detrimental to yourself, right? And so it's really amazing to be able to sit in a room and you have no idea that you're sitting next to a VP of a major manufacturing company,
Right.
or you're sitting next to a VP of a major cover company that comes from Canada, right? It doesn't matter who you are. And you're sitting next to these people and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, so what company do you work for? And they're like, oh, right back. And you're like, oh, okay. And then you learn throughout the thing that this is a very valuable person in your life or in the industry, and they don't act like it. They're just normal humans. And I think there's something so empowering for compared to the conversation with like a Stacy or the one I had yesterday at the very end of the day with a girl named Liz who's just starting out her company and they have 14 pools and her husband are going to do it together. And there's something so beautiful about that conversation that you can have to come together in one room and not have ego and not have anything else other than love and support for each other and wanting every woman to see the other woman succeed.
Well, and I truly feel like I'm going to stay connected to
Absolutely.
at least 50 of these women. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not even in the industry. Like they have no motivation to stay in touch with me because it's going to grow their business. Like
Right.
it's not about that. But I feel like I'm going to be staying in touch with so many of these women because of the lack of ego in the room,
Yeah.
the development we all had, the lifting up.
Yeah.
Maybe this brings a good point that I feel like kind of resonated through the whole thing, which was as women, not only are we hard on ourselves, maybe do we not take the best care of ourselves, we prioritize others. And it was amazing to hear women not only say, yes, I do that, I want to work on that, but also turn to another woman and say, give yourself some grace, or,
Yes.
you're trying, or you're aware. And there's this element of not only focusing on your own development, but contributing to the other people in a way that strips their own misconceptions about themselves.
I want to add to that because one of the things that we usually do is we have the Stacey Gearharts in the front of the room. And everybody, can see her, but they have to take some ownership to step up to Stacey and talk to her one-on-one. I wanted to break that wall between the audience and the presenters. So that's where the Mentor Forum Roundtable was born.
Yes.
So we reached out to 8 different, unique perspective women who are excelling in their roles, whether it be in the operations side, the CEO side, the HR side. And we just asked them, would you come and just create this space that's intimate? And so we allowed 2 full hours of a day one. That is hard to carve out. 2 hours. But we wanted to get them out of the room into an intimate space to be able to reach out and hear from the Stacys of the world. And so we had Stacey Gearhart, we had, Crystal Loenka, I hope I remember them all. Leanne Nix, obviously was one of our mentors. We had Caitlin Hawkins. Let me see who else was there.
Regina.
Regina Payne was our very last one that came in from Hayward and joined us. And she could not stop talking about, thank you for having me here to be a part of this. Casey McGovern gave us her opportunity to share her story, and that was really wonderful. They were all so different and unique.
Oh, yeah.
So who did I miss? I'm missing someone else.
One person.
One person. Leslie Elliott.
Yes.
Oh, that woman is bold, let me tell you. And to have that space, I think, outside of the room, intimate groups, then you saw them at the networking event, and they're all talking to the mentors they would have never, ever approached before.
Absolutely.
And then to have a table host. Sarah, you were a table host too. What else do we want to put you on the payroll for?
Literally.
I know. I'm like, the list keeps growing.
Yeah.
I thought there were 6 things, and it just keeps growing.
And I can't name them all, but there were 8 people who dedicated time to learn how to facilitate. How do we make sure that when we are having 14 or 16 people in a group, that everyone has a chance to engage and facilitate that conversation? And so it was very planful in that approach.
Well, and what I thought was interesting was obviously from a coordinator and like operational perspective, having the second voice in each breakout was very strategic. I think
Very
it's
much.
super smart. It's how
Yeah.
you do it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the women were so engaged at that point
Yeah.
that it wasn't like the facilitator was like, okay, like someone hop in. It was, everyone by that point was
Yeah.
so engaged.
Yeah.
And we were only on day 1 when that
They
happened.
wanted to have all 8 mentors. They
I
wanted to
know.
rotate through all 8. And here's the thing I'll say to that is we already knew that. And we thought about how can we do this, but it's always great to leave them wanting more. So there are more opportunities to meet these women, throughout the year, of course, at the conferences. I mean, if you see them at the conferences, stop and have
Yeah.
I was at the Women's Summit. I heard you and talk to them. But if not, we'll create more space. I promise.
Yeah. Okay.
I want to go back to you.
I did
Ugh,
too.
God.
I just feel like
I just like being the host.
I'm
Would you like to
watching
say
you.
something?
No, I'm watching you, and I'm not shy, and I'm not going to let you get
Good.
away with it.
Good.
So enough is enough. So,
Enough is enough.
it's funny because when Edgar told me, he said, "Oh my gosh, you know who I'm going to ask to come in and try to keynote?" Because he really stresses about keynote, right?
both do.
Keynote
Yeah.
is so important. And he goes, "Do you remember Emily? She was at Yelp, and she was the first person that came when we first got started at Pull Nation. She took our call. We felt so honored to have her on the podcast because you had information that was so helpful to the pool pros." And he just thought he hit the jackpot when he tapped into you and you actually accepted that invitation. So now the thought of having you come as a keynote just excited him. He was so happy that he's like, "I think I'm going to do this." And then when he said, "Oh my God, she's going to do it. She's going to do it." And he was so excited. And I hadn't met you, right? And I know that him and Doreen worked a lot on what should that keynote be and so on and so forth. So I think, you're talking about the summit. You were the keynote. I mean, that's a big deal.
It's a big role.
It's a big deal. And I think, Doreen, I want to turn it back over to you because I want you to tell us what went into as you were, because I know you
know me.
I know that you stalked her to make sure that, and I'm sure she would call it research, but I'm going to call it
research.
stalking. So she probably totally checked you out to make sure that you're going to, meet the standard that we have set. And obviously you exceeded our expectations for sure. So I want you to talk through what went into selecting that keynote. And then I really want to understand a little bit more about Emily's journey. I think that's going to be important.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. And I'll say, number one, it took us a while to land the keynote this year. And that was a little scary for Edgar and I. We must have met multiple times, threw out some names, did some research or stalking, and it just wasn't cutting our expectations. And so then, believe it or not, it was really funny. We were sitting there talking and Edgar says, "John had an idea."
Yes, it was John.
And I'm like, "John's going to come up with our keynote. Let's take a look at it. What is it?" And so he told me all about you. And so immediately I was intrigued. Just your story in itself and the fact that you were willing to be vulnerable to share that story.
Very exposed.
And then
Yep,
when I
loved
heard
it.
that you had a podcast, I'm like, "What's the podcast?" And he said, she runs this, she has an organization, Success Rewritten. That in itself, what does that mean? And so I went and
Awesome.
I looked at your podcast and watched you. And then we met with Edgar. And so what you don't know, Emily, is that when we were meeting that day, I was assessing whether or not you'll be the right fit for us. And it was pretty fast that I realized, oh yeah, this is, and I looked at Edgar and I shook my head. I'm like, oh yeah, this is it. And we weren't even ready to tell you that you were the keynote, but we were so excited in that moment. We're like, will you be the keynote speaker for us? So we don't just go out there and pick anybody. So I need you to know that, number one. And then I did more research. And then we met. We were best friends before the summit actually
we met
happened.
many times.
Many times, email, text, let's go
And talk
meet.
about efficient, baby. Put the two of us on a
Right.
call. Get out of our way.
And like just even stretching you, and you were always open to feedback.
Oh.
Here's what my plan is, but tell me what I can do to even make this even more effective to what you want. So thank you for that, for being willing to take the feedback and not just go, I know what I'm going to do and have a plan. So what I would really want to have happen, and what was organically happening at the Women's Summit, is people just coming to you like just a flurry of people wanting to get a little bit more Emily. And we can have them do that through getting onto your website, watching the podcast. Christina was at the airport. I think she had a delay yesterday and she's texting me, oh my God, this is incredible. I'm watching her podcast. So I know you can gift the world with more information. So tell us a little bit more about what it is that Success Rewritten is and how we can get more women involved and men listening to you.
Okay, so before I dive right into that, I just have to say I love when Edgar tells the story of how we met because I didn't know that like no one was answering them. I'm just working at this company and I get an email that's like, hey, we talked to pool pros and would you want to talk about reviews? And I knew back then that what they were building was something worthwhile. I mean, to have such a niche down industry organization that's really focused on lifting up the whole industry, educating. I mean, I was drawn to them years ago when we did our first thing. And we probably did 4 episodes together right out of the gate in that first year. And then talk about the power of networking and staying connected digitally. I hadn't talked to them in a couple of years. They've been busy as all get out.
Yeah.
And then I start doing this new thing, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But as I was doing this new thing, unbeknownst to me, John is seeing it on LinkedIn and in these other places where I'm talking about it. And I think even before you guys asked me to keynote, John sent a pool pro to me and said, this guy needs to be on Success Rewritten. That's Jay Lowry. Big shout out. He's watching live as well.
I love Jay.
I love it.
But I just want to say that that speaks to not only who they are, what Pool Nation is doing, but like, I'm just so grateful that we've now been reconnected and I'm no longer at Yelp. And I feel like I'm now a part of like
You
the
are.
pool family.
You are.
And that's because those guys in Pool Nation are really something special.
And just so you know, Sarah's example of like, one time and it's not the last time.
Yeah.
So just so you know, you
I
are
was
really,
gonna say,
you're part of a we.
I'll
now.
be making sure that I keep my checklist of what I'm asked to do because it always becomes more. No, I'm just
It
kidding.
does.
It does.
Okay, so let me give the real quick, and let me look at a clock so it is actually
You're
click.
fine.
Yes.
Okay, so the too long didn't read. The shorter abridged version of my story is I grew up in the Midwest. I come from a really big family. Both my parents have 6 siblings, tons of cousins. Very privileged life. My parents worked really hard to give us an amazing life. I played sports and instruments, and I just had a great upbringing, really like no challenges, and, go off to college, then decide to move to San Francisco, get a big job at a tech company, right? And I loved it. I mean, I loved working at Yelp. I started in sales. Then I moved into this kind of like unicorn role, business outreach and education. And I kind of got my chops in speaking and workshops and education through helping small business owners with online reviews, digital marketing, customer experience. And I loved it. I mean, I have like an entrepreneurial spirit, I feel like, but I was too afraid to be an entrepreneur. So I loved being at Yelp. I traveled and I just learned so much from small business owners, and I hosted a podcast for Yelp as well for 5 years in partnership with Entrepreneur Magazine called Behind the Review. Still, like, go check it out if you're a small business owner that wants to hear about that kind of stuff. But it was in this period in my career where, I mean, work and what I did for a job and the money I made, that was very much my identity. I loved the fact that I felt like I had an important job. And I also pushed myself to wildly extreme limits. And I always say like my raging 20s, and in the 20s, I didn't feel like it was raging. I felt like, thank God I have all this energy and I can like do all this. Doreen and I were talking this morning, like I'd hop on a plane, do 3 days at a conference, and then get back on a plane and like go on a weekend vacation with my friends and then fly to another, like it was nuts, you know? And it wasn't until 2018, I had since moved back from California to Wisconsin. I was just freshly living with my then boyfriend, now husband. We got a new puppy, and I was working on this project for Yelp to launch a Yelp for Business Instagram account. And this convergence of all of these things at once created a really bad scenario for me physically and mentally. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't drinking water. I mean, I don't really drink enough water as it is. I wasn't eating. And so by about day 4 or 5 after we had gotten our puppy, I was like a shell of myself. But I also had like all these ideas flowing. I mean, I remember being on calls with my coworkers like all day, scribbling down things about how we were going to launch this Instagram. And like social media is one of those things. Edgar and John know better than anyone. It can become this like suction trap of your attention. You post something, you want to see the engagement. It was just all over the place. And by day 5, I was not only like high energy, like I had been, I was in full-blown psychosis. And for people who don't know, psychosis is basically like a lack of connection to reality. So you don't really know what's going on around you. What is happening in your mind is like what you think is real. And my boyfriend was very scared. I was basically pacing around the apartment saying like, I just need to shower and sleep. I just need to shower and sleep.
Yeah.
And I was naked, just, like I was just at this really bad point, and he was freaked out. And so he called my parents, like, I don't know what's going on. They came down to our apartment. They were terrified. I mean, my mom will say to this day, she thought I had schizophrenia and like something was going on with that. And so they try to get me clothed. And the reason I tell the thing about like I was naked walking around my apartment, my dad was in my apartment. And at that time, I think I was 28. And being naked in front of my dad, probably like the thing in my life I'd want to happen never. I was going to say the least, but like actually just never. But that goes to show you that I was not even aware that was happening.
It shows you the extreme.
Yeah. So they got clothes on me. We get to an ER. And I mean, it was very clear at that point that I was not okay. They got me in, strapped me down to a hospital bed because I was kind of fighting. Like, I don't need to be here. Sedated me. And then the next day I was taken to an inpatient mental health facility. I spent a week there. I got a bipolar disorder diagnosis because basically if you have a manic episode that results in hospitalization, bipolar disorder. And I have some of that in my family. So it was kind of like, okay, that makes sense, I got started on medications, and I remember thinking like, well, I'm surely going to be back to work in like 3 days. Like, I know now that I have bipolar disorder. Okay, I slept. Like, I'm going to get back to it. And the doctor's like, no. Like, I don't know why you think that, but no. And he basically told me, like, you can either do this the first time, learn about yourself, get on meds, like, take this medical leave, or you can rush back to what you think is important, and I'll see you again in a couple months. And it was intense. I mean, 7 weeks of outpatient treatment. So going to therapy Monday through Friday instead of going to work. I learned so much about my brain. And also at the same time, I'm getting adjusted to medications, right? And so getting on medication and all of that, like, you can't realistically do that and go to work because I had bad boundaries. Like work was part of the problem.
Exactly.
And so I learned a lot. And then I remember it was time to go back to work. And I set with my treatment team these super intense boundaries and rules. And full transparency, I mean, they told me, like, your job is not good for someone with bipolar disorder. We would not recommend it. But you love your job. You've been doing it for a long time. So let's try with these boundaries first. And then if it doesn't work, then we'll explore a new career. And the boundaries were things like not being on my computer before 9 or after 6:30, turning notifications off on all of my work stuff. So like on my phone, not having the email notifications or Slack, like I'd have to open it to see what was on there. And then other things like no multitasking and sleeping a minimum of 8 hours a night. And I'm thinking to myself, like, I used to sleep 5 hours a night and feel fine. Like, how am I going to get anything done if I'm sleeping 3 more hours? Like, you're telling me I can't work the amount of time I used to. And in the beginning, I was like, this is so stupid. But by about 2 weeks in, I realized I was sharper. I was better at my job. And I think the most important thing, nothing was burning down between 6 p.m. and 9 a.m. Like, I'm really sorry, but none of us are saving lives. And so it's like, what are you doing if you're constantly going beyond baseline for a job. And I'm not saying it's not good to love your work or anything like that, but I learned really quickly that I needed this significant life event to happen for me to take this seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And now I try to use my story and my privilege to give other people permission to take care of themselves before something like that happens.
Yeah.
And I want to be really clear. I'm not saying that if you don't take care of yourself, you're going to have a manic episode and have bipolar disorder.
No.
Like, I believe I was born with bipolar disorder. It was just that episode that made us realize. But ultimately, all of us, and especially women, we push ourselves beyond the limits.
Yep.
We take care of everyone else first. I'm child-free by choice, and I still take care of like a laundry list of people before myself. I'm better.
Yeah.
But I learned so many things that will stick with me for forever. And one of the things I said in the keynote that I hope like resonated with people was, if you feel like you can't cancel things or reschedule things, you got to evaluate the why behind that. Because when you're at work on a Tuesday and then on Wednesday you're in a mental health hospital and you don't know when you're going back to work, you suddenly realize like you can cancel or reschedule anything. Because everything got canceled or rescheduled for me, not by choice. Someone else either took it on or it didn't happen or whatever. And, you know, fast forward to 2025, fall of 2025, Yelp decided to end the podcast. I got laid off. And I was thinking, like, my mental health is at risk here, right? Like, I might go into mania. I didn't know what was going to happen.
Sure.
But I stuck to those basics, right? Sleep, walking my dogs in the morning, like really trying to stick to those things that I know I need to do to have a base level of feeling good. And now as an entrepreneur, I mean, I'm not going to lie. It's not like I hold these boundaries all the time. I was emailing Doreen at like 11:30 the other night and making a joke like, you better not read this till tomorrow. I know she's going to see it.
Don't judge me.
I did.
But that is what I hope to help people with, is giving themselves permission, taking a deeper look at why they do the things they do, why they don't prioritize or take care of themselves. And then lastly, like really trying to get people to understand that you are a human and you have basic needs, and you're the only one who can truly make sure those are taken care of.
I think that's what spoke to people why they were so impacted by your keynote, is when you hear the word success, you feel that, oh, I'm going to hear something about how I can be great at achieving a goal or hitting my KPIs at work, or she's going to tell me the secret magic to being successful at work. Success Rewritten, when I was really looking at you, was more about, how do I take the plan that I've had all along and think that that's going to get me success? But now something's changed, and that change occurs, and now I need to reshift what success truly is defined as.
Yes.
And I think that's where I got the goosebump moments and thought, it's not just me. I can't have this for myself. We need to share this with all the women. And that's why I think it'd be really important for people to tune into your work, because it's not just about you. You've done tremendous work on other major topics that you're not an expert at. So you bring the experts in. That story with Jay just gives you an example of how you can take that story and continue to really hit other people in a way that's going to touch the heart that matters.
Well, and thanks for reminding me to bring it full circle to what I am doing now. So after, 5 years of having a business podcast for work, I decided I needed to keep doing that. Like, and I don't know how much people know about podcasting, but like, I didn't start my new show because I thought I was going to like replace my salary off podcasting. Right.
We wish, right?
Wouldn't that be nice? Yeah.
Everybody be happy.
But I was thinking, I know what happens when I share my story. And I know there's so many people who have had these things happen in their life that change their whole perspective on what matters, how they measure success. And so that is what the show is all about. I talk to people about the pivot points in their life that changed everything.
Right.
And sometimes it's mental health, sometimes it's physical health. We'd have people talk about loss, having a child. There's lots of topics. And what I love the most about these dialogues is the guests are normally people who have shared before about this moment, whatever it is. But we try to dig deeper, and we try to say, tell us about what was going on when this happened. And now tell me from current day how you look back at that time?
Right.
What stands out to you? And I think a lot of times on the show, people have these realizations in real time.
Right.
And I just am kind of picturing a slide from my keynote that was about resilience and about how we sometimes see in other people these things they've gone through and we're like, they are so amazing. They are
Right.
so resilient.
Yeah.
And then we can't like see that in ourselves.
Yeah.
And so my guests come on like thinking they're going to talk about something. And then I kind of try to get them to like be nicer to themselves. Like
Yeah.
it sounds kind of silly, but I think we all sort of need that.
We're our own worst critics in a lot of ways. And
Yeah.
that connection that you create, I think, is the powerful
Yeah.
thing. And we felt it for sure.
It was interesting yesterday. So after lunch, we did breakout sessions to do either like leadership development or coaching tools. And I sat down at my table and somebody came and sat behind me and she was like, I have to finish eating real quick. I had to do stuff during lunch, so she didn't get a chance to eat. So she brought her food to the class and the statement, Emily would be so proud of me, came out of her mouth because
Right.
she was like, I just was going to skip lunch. They had started to pack stuff up. And she's like, I made it a priority to take that second to get some lunch, right? Which seems so simple, but I think about it all the time. And there'll be times I look and I'm like, it's 3:00. I haven't eaten all day. Literally, I haven't eaten all day. And it's like,
That's me.
that's
Yeah.
not healthy, right? I'm a big fan of sleep. I get 8 hours a night. I force that upon everybody in my life. But like food, different things, right? But it was very interesting to hear, oh, Emily would be so proud of me. So you changed someone's life in that brief moment yesterday by telling people to make sure you eat lunch.
And telling your story. I think stories are a
100%.
powerful thing. Last year, we talked about the power of storytelling. And so you do it in a way that you're telling a story, it's honest, it's very authentic. And I think when people listen to your keynote, especially me, I was like, I'm going to give this gift to the women. And then I was like, holy crap, she's talking to me directly in some cases. Even Edgar and I looked and we're like, oh, she's talking to us about the last 2 weeks of crazy, chaotic, trying to get it all done. So,
Well, and let me just say, if you were at the summit and you heard my keynote, follow up with me and let me know how you're doing. Are you able to hold one of the new boundaries we talked about? Like, I truly do love talking to people about this stuff. So message me on LinkedIn or social or whatever. And, I always stress the fact that it's not like I do this all the time. Like,
Yeah.
this is my baseline, what I should be doing.
Mhm.
I have not been getting 8+ hours of
No.
sleep the past few days.
Right.
And that's life,
It's okay.
But tonight I might get 12.
I think that's the point. That's the point, right? I think we're women. We are so used to not recognizing one another. I mean, we should do that more. I wanted to talk a little bit about the recognition we did, if we could, at the Women's Summit.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I think
that
about
was
that was
amazing.
something Edgar and John brought last year
Yep.
into the summit for the very first time. Is how do we also? I mean, the Pool Nation Awards, they're just so impactful. How can we bring that to the Women's Summit? And so last year we had an opportunity to really recognize 5 women. This year we recognized our 4, and I wanted to just talk about that for a moment.
Please.
So first of all, we recognized our 3, I feel, very courageous people who came into their facilitation skills training the trainer in that audience, because I think it was a powerful thing to showcase that courage to other women. And so obviously we know Sarah and Alicia both came into facilitation skills. They were presented a frame with a certificate. And also Ashley Ross was the third, who's been at
Badass.
every single summit
Yeah.
since the first one.
She's badass.
And she comes
She's
in
badass.
every time. And she is a badass,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, but she's so unassuming.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
just a little thing.
And, my husband came to the nomination, I think it was the headquarters grand opening, and she was there. And he's like, I don't know a lot of people, but I do want to get to know that person in the red hair with the hat. And I'm like, that was Ashley.
Yep.
He's like, I just want to talk to her. She seems very intriguing.
Yes.
Because she's authentically who she is.
Mhm.
So again, she'll be the first one to tell you it was the hardest, 72 hours. We have to get her on a podcast so she
Oh,
can talk
yeah.
about her experience for everybody. But that was wonderful to be able to recognize them, and they're now certified trainers with Pole Nation, which means, Sarah, we might have another job for you in the future for you to be able to facilitate one of your expert topics into a boot camp or a conference, and you have the tools to do that. So I think that's amazing. And then after that, we recognized 3 next generation leaders, female leaders in the industry. We had Lexi Ray from BioLab. which I can't speak to all the qualities that she has, achieved in the last several months, but in the last 2 years, that story that Alicia shared about her impact in her organization and what she's done, I looked around the room.
I was moved to tears.
I was too, and she was.
I know,
and she's so young.
And
I
to see
think just see
everyone
what she's done
nodding
at
their
such a
heads.
young age.
They know her.
Yeah.
And they know that everything that was spoken was accurate.
Yes, yes.
And so you can see the heads nodding and you can see the tears and the excitement from her team. I have goosebumps right now thinking about it. We had Samantha Teague, who
That was
I
awesome.
met last year
Yeah, she's fantastic.
for the first time. And every time we connect on LinkedIn or we send each other a message or we see each other at a conference, it's like this instant bond for now and forever. But what she's done as a mom with 2 young children, with the support of her husband, many people don't know she was working 2 jobs just to keep her business going. And now she's thriving and we see her at all the conventions. It was great to be able to recognize what a career woman does in this industry so well, but also the growth that she's going to have. And then we had the third one. And I mean, it was a little bit sad, but Michelle Cook deserves to be recognized. And she was mortified that she was there. We were watching her as we started talking, and we had Missy come up and talk a little bit about Michelle. We all know her. I think she's one of those famous women in the podcast.
Totally.
We had her on, and everyone wants more Michelle, but she's so humble that she doesn't want to be recognized, doesn't see the need for it. But she was a little mad at us, I think, at first, but she's gotten over it. She deserves to be recognized.
Well, and can I just say, I mean, recognition is so, like, people do not understand the impact or importance of that.
Right.
And I'm not trying to rag on the industry because it's not just pool. It's all industries.
Right.
We're all so busy doing the work that we forget to recognize the ones around us, whether you're a leader, recognizing your team, or even just a peer, giving one of your colleagues like a shout out for what they're working on and what they're accomplishing. And to take a moment at the event and recognize them in front of the group, and also to have people who know them intimately tell for a couple minutes why they need to be recognized was so valuable. And I think it's awesome that Pool Nation does that. I think the awards are amazing. But I just want to say to anyone listening, like, let's start implementing recognition at your level. You know?
A coaching tool. I do that. I did that in Drive, in fact. I had everybody write down the word recognition into 2 parts. And if you define the word recognition, it is to repeat or reinforce. And Sarah's heard this about 25 times from me now. It's to repeat and reinforce the knowledge and understanding that you have. And most leaders, unfortunately, think it's to recognize the top 3%.
Yep.
And those are the top 3% who will show up every day and give their best selves. So what are you going to do with the rest of the organization? And so you use it as a leadership tool to, what did you do well today? Before you talk about all the things that you can do differently or that you did wrong, words matter when you're giving recognition. So it seems like a very simple thing to say. It's actually a skill set you have to muscle and learn. And I think the last, I want to make sure we mention our last recipient of the day. We were able to recognize for the most influential female leader this year, we had Crystal Luenga, who is a person who says yes to everything. Anytime we text her, she's a minute phone call away. She's calling you, what can I do? What do you need? She's one of the busiest women I've seen. And yet still, with being a mother, she says yes, flies from Canada anywhere we need her. She writes her own instructional design. She's like growth. She just loves growth. She likes growth for herself, growth for other people. So she's not just taking this education she's received, she's sharing it with others. And so, that was a moment when she just came up and cried and, I forget.
I think what was interesting with her was she was sitting, and she admitted, she said, I'm sitting there going, oh my gosh, it could be this person, it could be that person. There's so many people as the description of her was being read. It could be so many people. I wonder who it is. And then she was just shocked that it was herself. Like, again, it just goes to show she's not seeing herself that way and what she's bringing and all the work that she's put in and how she drops everything at the drop of a hat to show up and do what she's asked to do. She's seeing it. All these women in here, that applies to all these women, and then floored when it was her. I sat there and went, that's very telling.
It was an easy choice this year.
Yeah.
We both said the word at the same time, her name, and we knew right away that's who it had to be this year. And I want to talk about the timing of the Women's Summit for a minute.
Oh,
because
yeah.
It is literally August. It is back to school time period for
It's
women.
crazy.
They not only come in for the 2 days, but they're coming in now for a third day, and they're staying for a fourth just so they can team build. They're carving out time in the busiest time of the year for a mom who's trying to do everything else, doesn't have enough time. They're missing moments of taking their kids to the first day of school, and they're doing it willingly. That speaks a lot to the Women's Summit, but what they are going to get out of it
Well,
in return.
I'm glad you mentioned that because something that came up in a couple of my breakouts that I was in or roundtables was this concept of, as women, the guilt that they feel, especially as a parent, the time that their business takes. And if I can just recap some of the things that the leaders were sharing, because I thought it was great. And again, I'm child free by choice, mainly because I know how effing hard it is to raise kids. I mean, I had the kind of parents who everything they did was for us, right?
Yeah.
Like the decision, we were the top priority every time. And I think that's what makes a great parent. But being the top priority every time doesn't mean that you're not traveling for work. It doesn't mean that you're not working, And I had a couple leaders who would kind of make the joke, which I feel like was what my dad used to say, which is like, well, you like expensive things, or like you like nice stuff. You like to go on these trips, right? And I think as women, it is harder. Right? It is harder. But when you can hear another successful woman say, hey, my kids are actually very well developed. They're self-sufficient.
Right.
They know how to do things for themselves. They're not anxious to go into a store and pay for something at the checkout line, which is kind of what a younger generation of kids not that long ago was not able to do, because they were coddled, taken care of, always with a parent, or, and again, I don't want to say there's a right or wrong way to do it, but my point is, I think there's a lot of women that think they're neglecting their kids or, prioritizing themselves to come for a trip like this is selfish, and it's not. It is making sure that you can be a better parent, making sure that you can create the life that you want for your kids, right?
Yeah.
And so I just want to reinforce that if anyone, is struggling with that or feeling that, we had so many amazing and powerful women validate the fact that they have a career, they work a lot, they're not home for all of the things, they don't get to go to all of the games, and their kids are doing well.
Yeah.
And it's important for them to see that. And I also think it's amazing how many women you heard talk about their teammates, whether it's a spouse, a partner, or just this community they've built so that they can invest in their business, in their job.
There's like-minded women who can support one another. And I think that's the power of the Women's Summit. It's not just about work and how you can be successful at work. It is how we can live our lives as humans and give ourselves grace, support one another. You now have a community. You can learn from each other, both personally as well as professionally. And when I think about the men at home, right? I mean, we all look forward to the Women's Summit every year. We can't wait. It's like Christmas for us. I bet there's a lot of happy men today that their wives are home and they're no longer having to multitask everything that the women handle. So men, enjoy them home today.
We had a couple of men that were there managing the children in the background, and it was like, there you go, and they were doing it
Willingly.
well. They were doing it well, and they were doing it willingly, but they were doing it so that the women in their lives could take this opportunity to.
Well, let's thank them. Let's thank them as well.
For sure.
Right, for stepping up
They
and letting
stepped up and had to do what they
allowing
had
it to
to do.
happen. Yeah.
Big time. I'm trying to think about how we want to kind of put a
Well,
bow
we have
on
to.
this.
We have to, before we put the bow, I think we have to mention the AI session.
Oh,
guys.
yes.
I'm sorry.
That was amazing.
You're right.
That was
I'm-
amazing.
Because it's really intentional with everything that we're putting
Yes.
in
That was
here.
awesome.
One of the things I went to Edgar and said is, I knew last year what I wanted. I couldn't find anybody. And so I said to Edgar, I think it's really important to have a conversation around AI. And that conversation, I wanted it to be very specifically and intentionally, not what are the pitfalls of AI? What are the pros? What are the contention things we have to watch out for? I want somebody who really embraces AI, understands AI, and can teach us something new. And so we threw that out there 6 months ago and struggled to try to find a person. And what I really want to appreciate is Edgar's connection to people and his partners. He can make phone calls. He can ask the impossible. And he reached out to Matt McDermott. And I know Matt hates the attention, but I want to say, just reach out to him with an email saying, this is what our need is. Do you have anybody? My hope was I would get someone at a senior level, a VP level of some sort, to come in and just talk about what they want. They could delegate it to someone else. And what happened was Matt came back and let us be introduced to Patrick Garcia, who is the Chief Digital Officer of AI and Innovation. Can we just think about what that level entails from a responsibility perspective? And he had time to carve out willingly, excitedly, a space to share with us anything about AI that was a supportive AI.
Mhm.
It is a tool that can be a thought partner. And he showed us both from, in a fun and engaging way. He doesn't speak in front of a group of women. So, I mean, just when he showed up, even though we prepared him for what he was coming into, he told me he was really nervous because he's used to sitting in a boardroom and presenting this. But he was standing in front of 130 women packed in this room. I want to hear from Sarah. I want to hear from you. I want to hear from Leanne. What were your thoughts on the AI? Because it blew my mind. It was beyond my expectation of what we got.
So I learned I probably know 0.01% about
Right.
AI. And I was
Right.
like, these are some words. There's a lot happening. But I took away two things. I mean, there's books about AI that I had no idea. And so I took away with there's a lot more that I can do and I can learn. And this is a tool, right? And I think he talked about it. You don't have to be scared of AI. It's not going to replace people. It just makes the people doing the job more efficient, which I thought was a very, very key moment and key statement.
Right.
And don't be afraid of it. Do not be afraid of it. It's not replacing you.
Nope.
Utilize it. Be that efficient person, right? And to loop it all back together, be that efficient person for your mental health. Be that efficient person so you can go home and spend the time with your children, or you can walk your dog, or your company is more successful. And that to me was, like I said, I was like, I am 0% knowledgeable about this. And I left feeling more knowledgeable.
Honestly, I was nervous because I'm thinking, first of all, men
Right.
don't present at the Women's Summit.
I know. I was
Let's
going to make a
just start
comment.
with
He was
that.
the only
Only
non-female
man
presenter.
allowed in.
But he
But he
was
was
the
the
right.
expert.
He was the right
person.
person for the
So-
session.
Right.
But I just
Yeah.
want to give Doreen and the Pool Nation crew some credit for the fact that like you created amazing sessions with only female speakers. That is so powerful. And then this guy was perfectly placed
He
to
was
be our
perfectly
one male
placed.
speaker.
Right.
So I was really nervous about the fact that there was going to be a male speaker. I wasn't sure how the women were going to take, because it's been so dedicated to just women.
Yeah.
And then the minute he got started, it did not take even a minute before I went, oh my God, I love this man.
Yep.
He was, first of all, he's so knowledgeable,
Yeah.
but he did it in such a way that it was so relatable to everybody.
Yes.
He was so funny.
Yes.
And the
He
QA
had,
was
yeah, the
so
QA was
engaging.
great. He had people popping up their hands all over the place,
Yeah.
but he was so engaging and he was so funny and he was so authentic.
Yeah.
And I think I'd ask him. I think he had a good old time. up
Oh,
there.
sure. He
Like,
totally
out.
did.
Getting him
He
out of the
reached out,
boardroom in a
said thank
room full
you.
of 130
Yep.
women. He was on it. He was respectful. He knew he kind of like he knew his place, sort
Yep.
of.
Yep.
And I don't want that to sound bad. He just knew what he was there to do, and
Yeah.
he crushed it.
Yep.
And I walked out and I told Edgar, oh my God, because Edgar said, oh, how's he doing? And I said, he is nailing it. I'm super
Yeah.
excited for what he's doing.
Well, what I loved about it was he showed a lot of what they're doing at their company and the
Yes.
very intense AI work that they've been doing for years,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
We think of ChatGPT and AI as coming mainstream like a year and a
Right,
half
no.
ago. They've been doing this for years. Artificial intelligence has been around for a long time,
Right.
right? LLMs, ChatGPT, that's newer to us as like your average person. But I loved how he showed the intricacy and the detail there. But then he also was talking about the very basic way that you can use it to,
Right.
you know, set up a menu for your week for what you're going to cook at
A
home.
vacation.
Yes.
I
And that was important, I think, because
Yeah.
it shows the capabilities, but it doesn't make people who feel like they know nothing think, what the heck? I mean, he tried to
was
really
so good.
span
Yeah.
how you can use
Yeah.
it, different ways to use it.
And he gave us tools that we can start right away,
Oh, yeah.
prompting effectively. What does that look? What does it not look like? How do you make AI sound not like AI, but
Yep.
you? And I think now, even you, Sarah, having zero, experience, can do something.
Can do
with-
something.
And you're probably more
Yeah.
excited than you would have been otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I'm very excited to, like you said, a menu. And every time I use ChatGPT, I'm like, oh, it's so cool. And then I don't use it. But then I'm like, oh,
So I'm
now
using it
I'm
now
going to use
for
it.
weight loss. I'm using it
Exactly.
for mental health. I'm using
Yep.
it for spiritual growth, whatever I need to do. So I'm leveraging it.
I'm so boring. I'm using it for development plans.
I was going to say, I'm
performance
using it for
improvement
like
I'm doing it
my
for all that.
episodes.
Oh my God.
But let me
Work.
just say, I mean, a little quick AI lesson, not like I'm going to get too deep into it, but so that people understand, in LLM, a learned language model, which is what ChatGPT is,
Right.
it is essentially giving you a response based on what the most common predicted next phrase in a statement is.
Right.
So when you ask it a question, it's looking at like anything that's been fed into it, the World Wide Web, whatever,
Yeah.
and it curates a response for you. The more you prompt it and the more you put into it, the more effective and useful and accurate it is.
Absolutely.
So for a pool pro, if you've got a route and you're trying to figure out, like, maybe it's getting bigger and you're going to bring another pro on, throwing your own address and customer data in there is going to make it more effective, because now it's organizing and redoing what you fed it. So like for me, and I did this yesterday right before his session started, every single week, I take the transcript from my full successfully written episode, the transcript from the clips, and a couple of images of my guest.
Yep.
I throw it into Claude, and it already knows when I say work on a successfully written episode, it's going to make all these things: an SEO article, descriptions for clips to go on social. And so it is not going to the internet to come up with that. It is using the huge transcript that I put in there.
Right.
And so anyone who wants to start messing around or playing with it, the more you give it to work off of,
Yep.
the better it'll work.
Yeah.
It saves time.
And if you're not comfortable using it, ask it. Like I used to say, how do I want to set up my preferences? And it'll walk you through it.
Yeah.
Or like, what's a way you could better help me with blank? It'll give you ideas. So
Right.
just talk with it.
I mean, it used to take me weeks, maybe even a month to have an instructional design program for my leadership development, library. And it's just cut that time down dramatically so that I can be a thought partner with a tool that I can use that can make me better, not replace me. And I think that's really what I wanted him to land. And
Yeah.
I think he did a
He did.
fantastic
Oh,
job with that.
he nailed it.
I'm
Yeah.
glad you came back around to him, because I think that was an important.
I didn't want to leave that
It
out.
was
Powerful
such a, it was
session.
such a different.
He could have delegated
addition.
it
It
to
was
someone on his
awesome.
team.
That was
he
great.
said, I want to own this. And and I think that's really important to understand. We didn't just pick someone and say, show up at this time and facilitate. We take a really conscious effort to meet with them in advance, talk through what it could look like, give them some feedback, and that the willingness that people have to do that, we can't do it without them. And so a huge thank you.
But
Huge-
look at the commitment from Heritage.
That's what I was going to say.
We're going to give you our top guy.
Right.
Right. And that's Heritage continues to commit to this Women's Summit year after year after year. And Matt McDermott came to the opening of Pool Nation, and he was in my tour group. So I got to walk around with Matt and chill with Matt. And we were going through the training rooms.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, these are amazing. These look great." And I said, "Yeah, too bad they won't fit the Women's Summit." And he goes, "I love having that problem." And I said, "I know you do," because it just has grown and taken on a life of its own, which is fantastic. And I think it speaks a lot to what Pool Nation continues to bring to it. But there's no way we could do it without the dedication from Heritage.
Never.
Well, and I absolutely agree. And I feel like these sponsors, these partners, they understand what is happening in these rooms. They
Right.
understand what Pool Nation has curated. And of course, they want to be a part of it and
Yeah.
partner with it, because it is lifting up the industry.
It is.
That's the whole goal
The
of Pool
whole-
Nation. And I think it's helped these brands understand how valuable that is in their business
In their
journey.
own business. Yeah.
And now with the headquarters, we don't have to wait a whole year to bring the women back. That's what we've done with Leadership Drive.
Yep.
Is that we don't even charge it. You guys, we don't
I
charge
know.
people
I know.
to attend a virtual session to gain right where they are, home, work, on the road. I have people in the car like tuning into these, sessions that we host. Once a quarter, we host Leadership Drive content. That's one thing that we do
Right.
in addition to everything else. But now we have the headquarters, where we can actually add more classes in person, even hybrid classes.
Oh, yeah.
Where we have them in person, we have them remote.
Yep.
And here's what we just ask of the people who attend those: is just be actively engaged. Because if you really want to learn, you want to take it outside of that room.
Yep.
And I think that with the opportunity of the headquarters, I'm even more excited this year because
Well-
there's no holds barred.
I know the people who follow the show probably already know about the headquarters, but I just have to say before we each go around and say our favorite
Final
thing.
thoughts.
Yep.
Final
So
thoughts.
think about it. Think about your favorite thing
Yep.
from the summit.
Yep.
But for me, when I walked around that space and, I went on a couple tours just because I like to hear and see what's happening, the constant reminder and reinforcement that the space is for the industry. It's for people who work around here in Dallas and want to come in, take a meeting, meet a client, but it's also for any member of Pool Nation when they're in town, if they want to schedule something, if they want to record something. And, someone asked John last night when they were doing the tour, well, how do you decide if someone can shoot content in here or not? Do you vet it? And John said, yeah, I mean, we obviously want to make sure that the content is accurate, valuable, and lifting up the entire industry. But it's not like they're saying yes or no based on where you work at or any of that. It is about the industry. It's a place to come together and gather. And it's a resource now for these pool pros to be able to do things they maybe never done before.
Right. Right.
Yeah, it's going to be very powerful.
Okay, Sarah, I'm going to make you go first.
Deal.
Either favorite thing from the summit and or just your favorite thing from the past 10 days that you've been Pool Nation de facto employee.
Yeah, so I'll say the real quick thing about the new headquarters is I took the facilitation training there. And there's something to be said for not feeling like you're a guest in somebody else's home, right? At Heritage, you feel a guest in their business or a warehouse. But learning in the Pool Nation headquarters, we were there for the drive and it was freezing cold. And I walked out. I felt comfortable enough to go get a blanket, come back in, and
You're
sit there with,
welcome.
thank you. Thank you, whoever did that, because it's
You're welcome.
cold. And it's just that it's home. It feels homey and you're not a guest, which I think Pool Nation embodies in the whole industry, that we only get better if we all get better.
Yep.
We only get better if you feel comfortable and sometimes uncomfortable in those situations. And bringing all those women together, to lump them both together, but to bring all those women together at the Women's Summit and really breed that presence of openness and safety and comfortability that really is just going to make us all better in the long run, because we're all elevating individually and wanting to be better.
Mm-hmm. All right, Leanne, you're next.
My one thing from the summit, I just think, again, because I've seen them all, this was by far the best one ever. And I had described it to Edgar last night. I said, there wasn't one section that I think, yeah, we probably shouldn't have done that. We won't do that again. I loved every single section. And again, I think that Doreen did a crazy great job at threading all of the material together so that it all built on each other. It was all connected. And I kept driving that every time I was up there going, you guys understand that this connects to what you learned earlier, or it's going to connect to what you got to, later. And so I think that having that done so well and so organized, I think just again speaks to how valuable we find these women and how much we want to do for them. And I just find it magical. And the interactions in the room were magical. And the comments I got from people, which they're so complimentary to us when we get up and facilitate, like they just come to you at breaks or they walk by and, tap you and say, oh my gosh, you were great, blah, blah. And it's like, that's not why we're doing it. Right. We're doing it because we want them to take away some big nuggets. And a lot of times they said, I had somebody on Stacey Gerhardt's team come to me and say, you influenced me when I saw you speak the first, I think it was 2 years ago at the Women's Summit. And now I'm back again. And I'm so excited that you're here to do it. And I thought, okay, that's it too. That's magic that they even remember what I talked about 2 years ago. And now they're coming back for more. I just think it's such an amazing network, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. I just wish we could grow it, but keep it intimate.
I know.
We haven't figured out that piece of the magic. How do we let it get bigger? Because when it sells out in 3.5 hours, you're missing so many people that want to be there. We could go up to 250. But you can't keep it intimate.
I know.
And I think that intimacy and that genuine connection to each other is so magical.
I've been thinking about it every night since I got here. How do you make it bigger?
We've been thinking about it every year. We don't know how to do it because at least the last 2 or 3 years we've outgrown the space at Heritage.
And I think you don't outgrow what works.
Great space.
Don't fix what's not broken. I think what you do is you offer more opportunities.
Yes.
And that's my final takeaway. I think one of the things I hear is how do I get more of this?
Yeah.
Do you do this like throughout the year? Can you come to my company? The answer is yes. All you have to do is ask, right?
Mhm.
So, we gave out Edgar's and my information from an email perspective. Just email us.
Mhm.
Ask us what you need. We'll set up a quick 20-minute call and we can find out what you're trying to solve for, and we
Yeah.
can give you some opportunities in our toolkit.
Yeah.
If we don't have it, we create it.
Right.
And that's what I think is differential for us, that differentiates us from others.
Well,
It's the Mary Poppins bag of tricks.
Yeah.
She's called it a toolkit.
is.
It is an endless bag, I'm telling you, of stuff.
But I think also what I hear about, and I saw it in social media this morning, is, but what about the men's summit? Are you guys going to create a men's summit?
You
So
don't
here's what
wanna
I'll
see
say
my
to that.
reaction to that. You don't
Let
want to
me-
see my reaction.
Let me say what I say to that. We're not going to create a men's summit, but we do have things in the work to meet the needs of the men, but on just a boot camp. You can come to our boot camps that offer leadership and business development. You get great content there. Come to our conferences. But we are not going to spill the tea yet. But Edgar and I are working on something new that we want to launch in 2027 that will give an opportunity for men and women to get more involved.
I love it. I just want to say, even though we talk about how it was, exclusive, only 140 people, the people who registered in the first 3 hours, from what I saw in that room, I have no doubt at all that if anyone who's in the industry wasn't able to come and they were to reach out to anyone who was there,
Yep.
that person would be willing to hop on a call with them, answer questions, help them. And so if you're, seeing people post on LinkedIn or whatever that they were at the summit and they're excited, and you're thinking to yourself, I've been wanting to connect with them, or, I don't know anyone at their company. It would be great to know someone there. Send a note, because this group of women in this industry is incredible and they want to be connected. They want to lift each other up. And like I said earlier, we knew where different people were coming from, but that was not a part of the interaction or engagement at all.
Right.
And I know that if you were to reach out to any of them, they would be happy to chat and hop on a call and help you out. So don't be shy, I feel like. If that's something that you weren't with us physically, but you wish that you had some of the things from what we dug into, you can still get it.
And there's always next year. I loved Ashley Ross at the end when yesterday we were talking about you could win, a all expense paid to next year's summit. And her reaction was this.
So sweet.
Could we possibly give our ticket away to someone who's never come because we want to extend the invitation to
Which
someone
was
else?
amazing.
That
Just
was
the sweetest
amazing.
thing ever.
Sweetest thing ever, but also impactful.
I know.
And the whole goal of this particular summit was ignite with impact. Take and amplify what you learned here, share it with others. And when you do, you'll be able to ignite in the industry an impact that will be a rippling effect.
Well, in my mind, I'm like, I want to be at next year's summit, but I also don't want to take up a chair that another woman can be in. And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just take one of the hard chairs from out there, bring it in, because then no one will be mad at me. Alicia won't be mad at me. We won't have gotten really soft seating.
You're always invited back. You're now part of the Pool Nation family.
This has been incredible.
It
What a
has.
great way to have a conclusion on this amazing week. And this might be one of the last ones that's taped in here, because
It's getting there.
Pool Nation podcast, baby.
We're excited. That background
Gorgeous.
you had,
Yeah,
you
it's
were
awesome.
were there. It
It's
was beautiful.
It's amazing.
Beautiful.
Can I
We're bringing
also-
Spider with us.
I was going to say, can I also just say, Spider?
It's that we're creating Spider specific space right across
Yes,
the
across the
space
hall.
from the pool,
Oh,
podcast
and
studio.
Spider's making it uniquely
Oh, he
Spider,
is.
which
He's got
we
some-
have seen some sneak peeks on, which are amazing.
Cannot wait. We're so excited. So a big shout out to Spider. We adore you. But not to mention, he walked through the headquarters and was stopped constantly because,
He's famous.
Recognizable now.
famous.
He's
super
famous.
Yeah.
I love it. Well,
too.
ladies, I appreciate your time. Everyone tuning in, if you were not with us at the Women's Summit, mark your calendar for next year and make sure you register right away. And if you don't already tap into the Pool Nation resources, whether it's the digital training or to come out and see the space, I really encourage you to reach out to them, because you guys are willing to be flexible and work with people in whatever way makes sense. And so if anyone listening has been debating and not yet connected, hopefully this inspired you to do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And thank you, Emily, for hosting.
Thank you.
First, we
Emily.
sucked her into keynote, and then we sucked her into hosting podcast.
I love it.
Yeah, and you clearly are the expert in this space, so thank you. I mean,
Thank you.
Edgar, it's a hard combination. Can we get Edgar over here and we get Emily over here, and let's just do
Oh,
this,
are you
guys?
kidding? No,
That'd be bad.
idea.
Until next time.
That's
All right,
right.
thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Pool Nation podcast, a member of the Pool Nation family. You can listen to us live every Friday here at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. You can find us at Pool Nation or poolnationpodcast.com, on Facebook, or on Instagram at pool.nation. And to find more info about Pool Invoice, the billing software built specifically for the pool industry, go to poolinvoice.com. Before you go, this is what the pool industry has been waiting for. PoolmanUniversity.com. It's the first platform dedicated to learning the swimming pool service and repair industry. A pool service community where you can connect and find videos on business, service, water chemistry, and repairs. See you there at PoolmanUniversity.com.